This is it, Chargers fans. You begged, you pleaded, you wanted this, and it happened. It's officially the end of Brandon Staley. There is no way he makes it past this. There are rumors that the Chargers were probably going to fire him at the end of the season. Now it seems like they might just fire him instantaneously because it's a lost season, and the game that just happened was just wow. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! Ladies and gentlemen, Pitchmas is here! Every time PrizePicks does this promo, we make money. And it's because all Kevin Durant needs is to score 1 point on Christmas Day for his square to hit, which means we only need to get 1 pick correctly in order to 3x our money. I make my picks on my Instagram story each and every day that I play PrizePicks. I post my followers that win on my story as well. And if you haven't played PrizePicks yet, this is the best time to do so because your chances of making money are so much higher. Just use my promo code Mikerophone when you sign up on PrizePicks to double your deposit up until $100. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This has been coming for a very long time. I am absolutely convinced that there is no way Brandon Staley can get past this. I mean, if you go all the way back to his first season with the Los Angeles Chargers, when they had this massive season finale versus the Las Vegas Raiders, where they were facing off against the Raiders and the winner would make the playoffs while the loser would go home. However, if the game ended in a tie, both teams would make the playoffs. That set up the possibility of technically allowing both teams to kneel the ball the entire game in order to clinch a playoff spot for both teams. And unfortunately, both teams tried to win. But despite all this, the scenario was still in play. The Chargers season appeared dead as they trailed by 15 with over 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. LA rallied and scored a touchdown with a 2-point conversion. They forced the 3-and-out before a touchdown pass to Mike Williams on that last play of regulation that sent the game in overtime. Both teams traded field goals to begin overtime before the Raiders got the ball back with 4.5 minutes left. And after getting past midfield, it looked like the Raiders' drive was stalled out and they seemed content to run the clock out and take the tie. But Brandon Staley, for some reason, decided to fuck everything up and call a timeout with 38 seconds left. This even shocked the people on the broadcast.
What? I'm trying to process this myself. Wow.
And as a result, the Raiders decided to run another play with Josh Jacobs, gaining 10 yards, getting them into field goal range, and would kick the game-winning field goal to end the Chargers season. That was the very first notorious coaching mistake that Brandon Staley made. And when Staley was asked after the game why he called the timeout that essentially cost the season, he said this.
We needed to get into the right grouping. We felt like they were going to run the ball, so we wanted to get our best 11 personnel run defense in, make that substitution so that we could, get a play where we would deepen the field goal.
Now, Brandon Staley is known as a defensive genius of some sort. So the Los Angeles Chargers tried to help him out in his second season. They got him Khalil Mack to pair with Joey Bosa, and we didn't see much defensive mastery. The season was an up and down season, but the Chargers were able to finish 10-7, which would set up a road matchup versus the AFC South champion Jacksonville Jaguars. And this is when Chargers fans started to get really angry and call for Brandon Staley's head, because the Chargers had an incredible first half, jumping out to a 27-0 lead. And then they went up at halftime 27-7 thanks to 5 takeaways, including 4 interceptions and an opportunistic offense, making sure to make the most out of this great field position. The second half, however, was a completely different story. On offense, the Chargers only had 4 drives. 2 of those ended in punts, and the other 2 ended in field goals, which included 1 miss. Meanwhile, Jacksonville scored on all of their second half drives. The Jaguars scored a touchdown on their first 3 drives of the half before kicking the game-winning field goal as the clock expired to take their very first lead of the game and to win the game 31-30. It was the 3rd largest comeback in playoff history. The collapse also marked the first time in the NFL playoffs that a team lost while winning the turnover battle by 5. And this is all Brandon Staley had to say about it.
I don't think we played clean enough football. I didn't think we made enough winning plays in the second half where everyone's performing their assignment, doing it with the right technique, with the right type of energy. I just think there was a lot of little things in the second half that added up to a big result there. And, we got to learn how to come together and close a team out like that in the playoffs. Because
this past season has been an absolute nightmare for the Los Angeles Chargers. They signed Justin Herbert to a $262.5 million contract extension, and he was well worth that money. However, the one issue that Brandon Staley has had up until this point was late game collapses. In week 1, the Chargers blew a late fourth quarter lead to the Miami Dolphins. The defense allowed a touchdown in each quarter. In week 2, they led most of the game against the Tennessee Titans before having to rally and force overtime with a last-minute field goal. They would get the ball to start overtime, but would go 3 and out and would give up the game-winning field goal after falling to 0-2. Against the Cowboys in week 6, they kept it close most of the game, but they would allow a late go-ahead field goal and throw a game-sealing interception to lose by 3. They lost by 2 touchdowns to Kansas City, and then in week 10, they got exposed on national TV versus the Detroit Lions because their defense wasn't capable of stopping Detroit's offense despite Brandon Staley being a defensive guru. Then came their game against Green Bay a month ago. They led for most of the game, then lost the lead in the third, but then would take the lead back with a go-ahead touchdown with less than 5.5 minutes to go. The Packers would score a touchdown on the next drive, and because of a pass interference call against LA, the Chargers would lose yet another 3-point game, 23-20. Brandon Staley would famously have this interview following that game.
Confidence, like I've told you, and like I've told you from the beginning, I have full confidence in our way of playing. Full confidence in myself as the play caller, and the way that we teach, and the way that we scheme. Full confidence in that. We got to bring this group together and do it consistently, okay? And that's where it's at. So you can stop asking that question, okay? I'm going to be calling the defenses, okay? So we're clear. So you don't have to ask that again. I'm not here to talk to the fan base. I'm here to talk to my players, the locker room. I know that we give ourselves a chance to win every single week with the game plans that we have, okay? And we have done it here. You guys act like we've never played good defense. That's not the truth. That's not the truth.
So coming into this game, the Los Angeles Chargers didn't really have a lot of hope. They're currently third place in the AFC West. They are 5-8, which means they have hope for a wild card spot, but considering the fact that Justin Herbert is out for the rest of the season with an injury, it didn't really look so promising for them. And considering the fact that even when Justin Herbert was playing out of his mind, the Los Angeles Chargers were still a losing team, which really set up a anticlimactic event on Thursday Night Football when we saw a battle between Easton Stick and the Los Angeles Chargers versus Aiden O'Connell and the Las Vegas Raiders. Bear in mind that the Las Vegas Raiders were severely handicapped for this game. The Raiders didn't have Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams had an illness, Max Crosby was banged up, and for the Chargers, they didn't have Justin Herbert or Keenan Allen. Regardless, this was one of the most painful games that you could ever watch as a Chargers fan. I mean, it got so bad that the Las Vegas Raiders went up 49-0 against the Los Angeles Chargers. And when the Los Angeles Chargers finally scored, the PR team was in shambles. They just tweeted out, "We scored," with a period. Like, you could tell that the defense didn't really care to chase down Josh Palmer when he was about to score this touchdown.
Because you're up 49-0 at this point, man.
And it would just get even more embarrassing. I mean, Mark Davis is in shock when this pick six, incredible pick six, by the way. It was like a one-handed pick six that Easton Stick threw on the screen pass. And the Raiders almost were able to set a record against the Los Angeles Chargers. That's how bad it was. Now, I gotta give it up for Brandon Staley because following this embarrassing blowout, a reporter asked the question that we were all wondering, whether or not he expects to be the head coach of the Chargers tomorrow. And I gotta give the man credit. I could see why he got this job to begin with. The way he spun this into one of the most charismatic monologues I've ever seen is, I gotta admit, very impressive. Watch.
Do you expect to be the coach here tomorrow?
I don't know that.
Do you think you should be?
Yes.
Why?
I know that what I've done here for 3 years, and I know what I put into this, and I know that we're capable of going. I know the type of coach that I am. I believe in myself. But again, this isn't about me. This is about a group that's hurting in there. We got to get some rest, and we got to get ready for Buffalo.
Here's the thing, man. When you're a head coach, these things do tend to happen. There are times where you get blown out by a significant margin on national TV. But in the case of Brandon Staley, he made a boneheaded mistake where he called a timeout, managed to game poorly versus the Las Vegas Raiders in his first year. Team ownership swept that under the rug. In his second year against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he blew a historic lead, and that resulted in the end of his team's season. But the Chargers brought him back one more time. And this past year, he has blown multiple leads and has embarrassed the Chargers every time they were on national TV. At this point, you'd have to be a fool to give him another chance. And I feel for the guy. I mean, you know, from the human element of this all, you never want to sit here and say, hey, fire somebody. But in this particular case, if you're ownership, who else do you point the blame finger at? It's not your quarterback that's the problem. It's certainly not the wide receivers that are the problem. It's not Khalil Mack, who's having a career renaissance this year. That's the problem. Or Joey Bosa, that's the problem. These games are typically lost due to a lack of management. And of course, you did have a backup QB in tonight, and some of your best players weren't available. But the thing is, even if Justin Herbert was available, I bet you some type of bullshit like this would have happened anyway. The craziest part is the Las Vegas Raiders didn't score any points last week, and they came and hung 63 on the Los Angeles Chargers. I am convinced that there's no way Brandon Staley has a job tomorrow. This has to be the end of his career. At the end of the day, I want to feel bad for the guy, but he's made $16 million off of this endeavor. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about all this? If you're a Chargers fan, is this the end of Brandon Staley? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.